You've been lied to. Not by the market, not by some scammy guru, but by something far more dangerous, your own psychology. Every time you open a chart and tell yourself, this looks good, every time you move a stop loss just a little lower, every time you hesitate on a trade and then chase it minutes later, you're not trading, you're reacting, you're bleeding. And here's the truth no one tells you until it's too late. The average trader doesn't lose because of bad setups. They lose because they never built a mental system to survive the volatility of their own mind. Markets aren't hard. Your emotions are. You think your edge is your analysis. It's not. You think your edge is your strategy. It's not. Your real edge is your ability to stick to a process while your brain screams at you to break it. The difference between the 5% who win and the 95% who fade isn't knowledge. It's discipline under pressure. It's a system of identity, ritual, and rules that hold when the market tests your soul. But you've been trained otherwise. You were told to chase indicators, chase signal groups, chase the next alpha leak, as if more data will fix your fear. It won't. Because what you're facing isn't an information problem. It's an operating system failure. And most traders? They're running outdated mental code. They think trading is about being right. They think losses are failures. They think confidence comes before execution. All wrong. This video is not a tutorial. It's a reconstruction. Over the next 8,000 words, we're going to uninstall the emotional malware you've been conditioned with and replace it with a structured, performance-ready trading mind. We're going to show you how your brain sabotages consistency, expose the identity traps killing your discipline, and build a mental operating system that runs in the background, quietly keeping you in control, even when everything is falling apart. This is not mindset fluff. It's mental architecture for those who want to win sustainably, not just get lucky once. By the end of this video, you won't just understand why you lose. You'll understand how to build the trader who wins, repeatedly, calmly, systematically. Because in the end, the market doesn't reward effort. It rewards structure, mental structure. Let's begin. Core promise plus 3 mental shifts. What if I told you that most traders don't lose because they're stupid, lazy, or undisciplined? They lose because they're trying to operate a precision machine, the market, with an emotional brain designed for survival, not performance. And without rewiring that operating system, every strategy, every webinar, every backtest becomes just another distraction. This video is your bridge out of that loop. Here's what you're going to walk away with. A complete mental performance system for trading, one that transforms your identity, installs consistent execution, and protects you from the silent killers of performance. Not a hack, not motivation, a framework. And this framework is built on 3 fundamental psychological shifts. Shift 1. The market doesn't reward intelligence. It punishes reactivity. Smart traders still panic. Smart traders still chase. The market doesn't care about your IQ. It cares about your ability to stay neutral while under pressure. Every time you get into a trade, your nervous system treats it like a threat. Adrenaline spikes. Pattern recognition shuts down. Emotional biases flood in. This is not a lack of knowledge. This is a failure to regulate state. So we'll teach you how to neutralize that biological threat response. How to remain a statistical thinker even in a storm of uncertainty. Shift 2. Your brain lies under stress. You need a system that doesn't. You think you'll stick to your plan once you're in the trade? You won't. Stress corrupts decision-making. It shrinks your time horizon, increases risk-taking, and blinds you to the bigger picture. That's why elite traders don't decide during trades. They execute. They operate from pre-built rules, tested protocols, and mental constraints designed to limit the power of emotion. In this video, we'll give you that system. A ritualized set of behaviors that turns chaos into clarity. Shift 3. You don't trade the market. You trade your identity. If your identity is built around being right, you'll never hold through discomfort. If your identity is tied to outcome, every loss will feel like a threat to your worth. And if your identity is a trader who sometimes follows rules, then inconsistency is your destiny. But when you rewire your identity to be process-focused, risk-accepting, and emotionally resilient, everything changes. You no longer need to feel confident. You just need to follow your system. You no longer chase profits. You become the kind of person the market rewards. That's the goal of this video, to upgrade your mental firmware from amateur reactor to professional executor. Here's how we'll do it. We'll start by dissecting the neuropsychology of trading, how dopamine, fear, and subconscious bias sabotage even your best intentions. Then we'll expose the hidden profile of the shadow trader, the one that lives inside all of us, and show you exactly how to dismantle it. From there, we'll build the new trader identity from the ground up with real frameworks, internal scripts, and performance rituals you can start using today. And finally, we'll show you how to install and automate this new mindset through systems, pre-trade protocols, identity triggers, journaling routines, and post-trade debriefs that lock in the change. This isn't going to be easy, but it will be real, because no one becomes consistent by accident. They build it, brick by brick, belief by belief, system by system. And you can too, once you understand that this game isn't about predicting the market. It's about becoming the version of you that no longer needs to. Let's keep going. The neuropsychology of trading. Imagine this. You're in a trade. The setup was clean. The plan was written. The risk was defined. But now price pulls back slightly. Your heart rate spikes. Your palms sweat. You zoom out, then zoom in. You hover over the close button. You doubt. You hesitate. You act. You exit too early. Or you move your stop. Or you double your position out of nowhere. Later, you look back at the chart and ask, what the hell was I thinking? That moment, that split-second deviation, didn't happen because you lacked information. It happened because your brain is wired for survival, not performance. Welcome to the neuropsychology of trading. At its core, trading is a battle between your prefrontal cortex and your limbic system. Logic versus emotion, system versus survival, the human versus the monkey. The prefrontal cortex handles reasoning, planning, statistical thinking. It's what you use when you backtest, journal, and analyze trades after the fact. But in the heat of the moment, when money's on the line, your amygdala hijacks your system. This ancient part of the brain was designed to keep you alive in the jungle, not composed in a trading session. It doesn't know the difference between a 1R loss and a lion attack. So what happens? When price starts moving against you, even slightly, the brain sees it as a threat. It floods your system with cortisol. It narrows your focus. It biases you toward action, any action, because inaction in the wild meant death. But in trading, reacting on impulse is the death. Let's go deeper. Every time you make money on a trade, your brain releases dopamine. This reward chemical creates a pattern. Green candles equals I'm smart, do it again. The problem is, dopamine isn't satisfaction, it's desire. It doesn't say, great job, it screams, more now. And so, after a win, you start looking for the next setup, even if the market is dead. You crave the hit. You don't realize it, but your behavior is now chemically driven. Then comes the flip side. You lose. Now you feel shame, frustration, even grief. Your identity gets attacked. Am I even good at this? So you enter another trade, fast, not because it's a valid setup, but because your brain is desperate to fix the feeling. Welcome to revenge trading. This isn't immaturity, it's biology. You're being chemically puppeteered by an internal system that doesn't understand modern risk. And unless you install mental buffers, rituals, mantras, breathing, journaling, spatial resets, you will repeat the cycle. Here are the 3 most dangerous psychological loops every trader must break. 1. The overconfidence trap. After a few wins, your brain tricks you into thinking you've mastered the game. You ignore risk, increase size, break your plan. This is the dopamine trap. Confidence without control. 2. The desperation spiral. After losses, your brain seeks emotional recovery through market action. You blur setups, remove filters, start chasing candles. This is the amygdala loop, fear disguised as urgency. 3. The identity collapse. You start equating trade results with self-worth. A red day feels like personal failure. A green day feels like redemption. Now you've fused your ego with your P&L, and that's lethal. The solution? Systematic state regulation. Great traders don't just follow setups. They follow state management protocols. They breathe before every trade. Repeat identity anchors like I execute systems, not feelings. Use visual cues, lighting, positioning, space to separate emotion from logic. Have clear stop trade limits when state breaks down. Because they know the quality of a trade has less to do with the chart and more to do with the mental state it was executed in. Think of your trading day like a cockpit. Before a plane takes off, the pilot goes through a checklist. Every time, no matter how many times they've flown. Why? Because human memory is unreliable under pressure. That's what you need, a pre-flight checklist for your brain. Something that ensures your state is stable before capital is deployed. Because if you don't manage state, state will manage you. And it doesn't care about your backtest. So from now on, every trade starts with a reset. 3 deep breaths. Verbalization of the setup, a review of the written risk parameters. 1 question. Am I calm enough to lose this trade without reacting? If the answer is no, you don't trade. Because the greatest risk in trading is not the market. It's you, trading when your brain is unfit for performance. And if you want to trade like a professional, you have to think like one. That means creating systems not just for entries and exits, but for mindset, state, and execution quality. Because in this game, emotion is expensive. And discipline, quite literally, pays. Let's move to the next level, the shadow trader profile. He wakes up and checks the charts before brushing his teeth. He doesn't journal. He doesn't review. But he tells himself he's getting better. He scrolls Twitter, scans Discord, loads 5 indicators per chart, switches between timeframes like a casino slot addict, and calls it analysis. He chases green. He runs from red. And he survives on hopium, not process. This is the shadow trader. And if you're honest, you'll admit he lives inside you too. He's not evil. He's not lazy. He's not dumb. He's simply a trader with no identity, reacting to market chaos with emotional chaos of his own. Let's break him down. Shadow trader trait number 1, outcome attachment. He believes every trade means something about him. A win equals he's smart. A loss, he's failing. He doesn't measure process. He measures self-worth. So he avoids journaling, avoids accountability, and avoids stillness, because facing his patterns means facing himself. Shadow trader trait number 2, strategy addiction. He's always hunting the next holy grail. One day it's MACD, next day it's order flow, then price action, then options flow. He mistakes stimulation for progress, complexity for mastery. Because if he keeps switching systems, he never has to face the discomfort of sticking through the pain of execution. Shadow trader trait number 3, information overload. He consumes YouTube videos like candy. He's subscribed to 5 signal groups, 10 newsletters, 3 screeners, and a market chat room he barely understands. He believes if he just knew more, he'd win. But knowledge isn't his problem. His problem is execution without identity. Shadow trader trait number 4, no rules, no rituals. He doesn't have a pre-market routine. He doesn't have trade criteria. He doesn't review weekly performance. He goes with the flow. Not realizing that flow without feedback is chaos, and chaos doesn't scale. Shadow trader trait number 5, ego-driven sizing. He sizes up after a win. He sizes up after a loss. He sizes up when he feels confident. He trades like he's trying to prove something, to the market, to a parent, to a partner, to himself. He doesn't realize position sizing is a math formula, not a therapy session. Shadow trader trait number 6, mental fatigue. He's tired, always tired. Not because he works hard, but because he never stops overthinking. He's mentally cluttered, emotionally taxed, spiritually depleted. He thinks more effort will fix things. But what he needs isn't more force. It's more structure. Sound familiar? That's not judgment, that's recognition. Because almost every trader starts here, in the shadow. It's the default operating system we inherit when we enter markets with emotion, but no structure. And until we rebuild that system, we stay stuck, no matter how much we learn. But here's the good news. The shadow trader is not permanent. He's a phase, a mirror, a signal that we're trying to trade with an untrained identity. And once we see him clearly, we can begin the shift. Here's what that shift looks like. From identity-based trading to process-based trading. From strategy hopping to system building. From emotional reaction to protocol execution. From unconscious ego loops to conscious decision maps. And most importantly, from needing the market to validate us, to using the market as feedback for who we're becoming. But before we move on, pause here. Take inventory. Where is the shadow still running your show? Is it in your mornings? Is it in your position sizing? Is it in the way you beat yourself up after a red day? Don't shame it. Spot it. Name it. Disarm it. Because the moment you say, that's not who I want to be anymore, you create space for a new identity to take hold. And that's exactly what we'll build next. Let's meet Trader 2.0, the identity flip, Trader 2.0. Trader 2.0 doesn't trade to prove. He doesn't trade to win. He trades to execute a process because he understands that identity drives behavior and behavior creates results. He's not smarter than the shadow trader. He's not more emotional, more talented, more lucky. He's just structured. Let's build him. Trait 1. Probability Thinker Trader 2.0 sees every trade as a probabilistic event, not a referendum on his intelligence. He knows he can follow every rule and still lose because variance is built into the game. So when he loses, he doesn't spiral. He journals, he studies, he adjusts the system, not his self-worth. And when he wins, he doesn't celebrate wildly. He verifies if the trade followed plan. If not, he logs it as a bad win. Because a broken process that leads to profit is still a loss in disguise. Trait 2. Rule Executor Trader 2.0 doesn't feel his way through trades. He predefines setups, risk levels, and exits, and then executes them with robotic precision. He writes his plan before the market opens. He reviews it aloud before each entry. And once the trade is on, he lets it run. No adjusting targets, no second-guessing stops, no jumping between charts, because he trusts the rules more than he trusts his feelings. Trait 3. Loss. Embracer Trader 2.0 has made peace with loss. He knows every great system has drawdowns, every edge has chop, every streak has blood. So he doesn't resist red days. He prepares for them. He builds them into the plan. He sees them not as punishment, but as tuition. Every loss teaches something about setup quality, about emotional control, about position size. And each time he absorbs that lesson without flinching, his identity grows stronger. Trait 4. System over Ego Trader 2.0 is not married to being right. He's married to being effective. He doesn't need to be the smartest voice in the room. He needs to be the most consistent executor in the room. His goal isn't to outsmart the market. It's to survive long enough for his edge to play out. So he strips away everything that feeds ego. No trading on feel. No adjusting risk mid-trade. No chasing after missing a move. No justifying violations of his own plan. Because he knows, ego seeks control, but system creates control. Let's make this real. Imagine waking up and not feeling the urge to check your P&L. Imagine entering trades with no heart rate spike. Imagine ending a red day with calm because you know your identity isn't built on outcome. That's Trader 2.0. He's not perfect. He still feels emotion. He still has doubt, but he's built a mental firewall between emotion and execution. He doesn't wait to feel ready. He acts because his system tells him it's time. And when it's not time, he sits. He watches. He sharpens. He protects capital like a bodyguard, not like a gambler hoping for a turn. This is identity-level trading. It's not about tricks. It's about becoming the kind of person who wins without needing luck. Here's the key mantra. I trade who I am. The charts only reflect that. If your identity is sloppy, inconsistent, and reactive, your results will be too. But if your identity is structured, rule-based, and emotionally neutral, your results will compound over time. Because consistency is not a result of discipline. It's a result of identity. So here's the transition you must make. Stop asking, how can I win this trade? Start asking, what would Trader 2.0 do in this moment? That's your cue. That's your North Star. And if you follow it, not just once but daily, the external results will follow. Not by force, by alignment. Because when you act in accordance with a powerful identity, you no longer need willpower. You just follow code, and the game becomes simple again. Let's now look at how the greatest traders of all time embodied this same identity and how you can borrow their mindset to accelerate your evolution. 54 Breakdown. Let's take a scalpel to one of the greatest traders of all time, Paul Tudor Jones. Not because he made billions, but because of how he thinks, how his internal system operates. What made him elite wasn't just strategy. It was psychological architecture. Let's dissect it. Belief number 1, losers average losers. When asked what separates him from most traders, Paul didn't mention chart patterns. He said, losers average losers. Translation, if a trade is going against him, he doesn't add more. He gets out. Why? Because he respects invalidation. He knows that ego says it'll turn around, but his system says if the reason for the trade is gone, so is the trade. That's identity at work. He doesn't try to fix losses emotionally. He just executes the rule. Cut it. Belief number 2, risk comes first. Paul once said, "Don't focus on making money, focus on protecting what you have." In other words, he treats capital like a soldier treats oxygen, non-negotiable. Every trade has defined risk. Every position has clear size. He doesn't hope the market plays nice. He assumes it won't. That's why he survives, because he doesn't trade to prove. He trades to protect. And that changes everything. Belief number 3, simplicity scales. Despite being one of the richest traders alive, Paul's approach is stunningly simple. He uses basic technical patterns, momentum cues, macro context, but no over-optimization. Why? Because complexity breaks under stress, but simple systems endure, and more importantly, they're easier to follow consistently. And consistency is his edge, not accuracy. Belief number 4, self-awareness is a weapon. Paul pays intense attention to his emotional state. He knows when he's off. He takes breaks. He adjusts size based on confidence. He's not afraid to pause because he understands that poor state equals poor performance. Most traders ignore how they feel until it's too late. Paul makes it a variable in his system because self-awareness isn't softness, it's strategy. Now let's reverse engineer his system into something usable. Here's what you can adopt from the PTJ mindset. Today, 1. Stop averaging down. If your trade thesis is broken, cut it. Not after it gets too painful. Not after you Google 5 reasons to hold. The moment it breaks, exit. This trains your brain to respect invalidation. It disconnects identity from attachment. 2. Risk 1% or less per trade, always. Don't size based on emotion. Don't size based on confidence. Use a formula. Size equals account X cent risk, a distance to stop. This removes ego from the equation and replaces it with math. 3. Keep your system simple. 1 setup, 1 time frame, 1 set of filters. Trade that until it's boring. Then scale. Because scaling simplicity beats chasing sophistication. 4. Build a state check ritual. Before every session, ask, am I rested? Am I focused? Am I calm? Am I objective? If 2 or more are off, reduce size or don't trade. Because when Paul feels off, he steps back. That's not weakness, that's edge preservation. 5. Build mental contrast. Whenever you're tempted to break your rule, ask, would Paul Tudor Jones do this? That one question creates friction between impulse and action. It introduces identity into the equation, not just emotion. Over time, that question rewires behavior. You begin to act like someone you respect. And eventually, you become that person. This is how modeling works. Not by copying strategies, but by absorbing belief systems. So if you want to borrow Paul's success, don't look at his trades. Look at his rules, his principles. His refusal to let emotion override execution. Because that's what made him elite. Now ask yourself, how would your trading change if you applied just 10% of that mindset? How many trades would you avoid? How much mental bandwidth would you save? How much faster would your edge compound? That's not just theory. It's blueprint, and it's available if you commit to being the kind of person who follows it. You've seen what Trader 2.0 looks like. You've seen how legends think. Now let's build a system that makes those traits automatic. Let's hard code the operating system. Next, the mental architecture that locks it all in, the system build. You've learned the mindset. You've met the upgraded identity. Now we build the machine. Because without systems, identity doesn't scale. Without protocols, discipline fades. And without architecture, pressure breaks even the best intention. This is the Mind Over Markets mental operating system, EMOS for short. It's not just a checklist. It's a behavioral firewall, a structured way to trade that removes guesswork and protects performance under stress. It has 4 pillars. 1. Core identity. 2. Environment control. 3. Protocol execution. 4. Review loops. Let's break each down. Pillar 1. Core identity. Every system starts with self-definition. Before you enter a trade, you must define who you are as a trader and who you're not. Your identity is the constraint that filters out noise. Are you a swing trader or scalper? A trend follower or mean reverter? A rule executor or feel-based actor? Clarity here saves you thousands of dollars in random behavior. Write this down. I am a trading style who executes setup types under market conditions with risk rules for measured outcomes. This is your operator's manual, not a goal, a code. Pillar 2, environment control. The space you trade from shapes your behavior more than you think. Distraction is execution's silent killer, so we engineer the room. 1 screen only until you scale. Clean desk, no extra tabs. Visual cue in view. A rule card or mantra. Physical trigger. Sit, breathe, review, execute. Design an environment where doing the wrong thing is harder than doing the right thing. That's high-performance architecture. Pillar 3, protocol execution. This is your command center. Every action in your trading day falls into a protocol, and protocols must be written, rehearsed, and repeated until they become second nature. There are 3 main protocols. 1, pre-trade protocol, morning review, macro plus market scan, setup filter pass, A plus only. Risk parameters confirmed. Am I emotionally neutral? Check. 2, trade execution protocol. Enter only if all checklist items are met. No partial position sizes unless pre-planned. Stop loss plus target written before entry. Trade plan spoken aloud before execution. No adjustments once trade is live, Rule 3. Post-trade protocol. Snapshot of trade. Quick reflection. Did I follow plan? Journal update. Screen score. Rating system. Setup execution. State. Every protocol is a gate. If the gate isn't passed, the trade doesn't happen. This protects you from yourself. Pillar 4. Review loops. Great traders don't just track results, they study behavior. Review creates precision. Precision creates growth. Here's how to structure your review. Daily. Trades taken, setup plus outcome, 1 key lesson or deviation, emotional state notes, score your discipline 110. Weekly. Top 3 wins, top 3 mistakes, most repeated setup, any rules violated, adjustments for next week. Monthly. Win rate, R multiple, risk efficiency, setup stats which work best. Behavior trends. Identity alignment. Am I trading like my system self? The goal isn't just feedback. The goal is reinforcement, because consistency doesn't come from willpower. It comes from review. It comes from making excellence measurable. Now let's simplify this into a mnemonic you'll remember. IEPR. Identity. Who you are and what you trade. Environment. Where and how you operate. Protocols. What you follow every session. Review. How you refine your edge over time. This is your mental software stack. It runs quietly in the background. And when pressure spikes, when emotions rise, when temptation whispers, it saves you. Because now you don't need to decide. You just run the code. That's how professionals behave. That's how consistency is built. That's how confidence becomes installed, not hoped for. You now have the machine. Next, let's wire it into your routine. Let's make it real. Let's make it automatic. Implementation protocol. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. So let's build one. Because knowing how to think is not enough. You need to practice the new identity until it becomes the default. Here's how we install Trader 2.0 into your daily life. One ritual, one behavior at a time. Welcome to the Trader Reset Cycle, a 7-day loop designed to reinforce the identity, system, and mindset we've built. Each day is structured around 3 key moments. 1, morning grounding. 2, live market self-check. 3, evening review and reset. You'll repeat these cycles, not forever, but for long enough to automate the new operating system. 1, morning grounding, 10 to 15 minutes. Before you look at charts, open Discord, or read news, pause. The first 15 minutes set the tone for the entire session. Here's your ritual. Sit in silence for 90 seconds. Breathe. Read your identity statement aloud. I am a probability thinker. I follow process. I do not chase. I execute systems, not feelings. Skim your rule card, just the essentials. Max 2 trades day, 1% risk cap. No setups equals no trade. Review your written plan. Watch list. Valid setups. Market bias. Predefined entry, stop, target. Speak it out loud. Hearing yourself affirms intention. You don't go to war without armor. This is your armor. 2, live market self-check. During the session, especially after a trade or a large move, do a state audit. Ask, am I breathing slowly? Am I leaning in or feeling tight? Is this decision driven by plan or by fear? Would I still take this trade if I were red on the day? If 2 or more of these feel off, pause. Stand up, walk away for 5 minutes. This pattern rewires impulsive loops and reinforces executive function. Optional, set a recurring timer every 45 minutes for a posturous breath reset. You're not just managing trades, you're managing state. 3, evening review and reset, 15 minutes. This is where real growth happens. The goal, extract lessons, neutralize emotion, and reinforce identity. Template, what trades did I take? Did I follow my process? What state was I in before, during, after? What was one thing I did well? What is one improvement for tomorrow? Final score, 1 to 10. How well did I trade my identity? Bonus, write one sentence about how today made you better. This reframes even red days as forward motion. Weekly reset ritual once a week. Every 7 days, zoom out and look for behavioral patterns, not just P&L. Ask, what rule did I break most? What pattern worked best? What emotion cost me the most? What can I automate or eliminate? Then adjust one variable only. Too much change breaks systems. One rule at a time builds mastery. Additional installation tools. To go deeper and lock in change, Trader's Mirror, weekly. Stand in front of a mirror and speak your identity aloud. Sounds ridiculous until it works. Loss reframing mantra. After any losing trade, say, this was tuition. I paid to learn this. I paid with control. End of week debrief video. Record a 2-minute video recap of your week. Speak honestly. Keep it private. Watch it next Friday. These tools turn awareness into reinforcement, and reinforcement is what forges identity under pressure. How long does this take to work? Most traders want results now, but performance psychology doesn't bend to urgency. It bends to ritual. 7 days will sharpen awareness. 21 days builds the habit. 90 days transforms identity. You'll know it's working when you hesitate before breaking rules, you feel calm entering risk, you trade less, but better. You stop trying to predict and start executing at us. That's the point. We don't trade for dopamine. We trade for consistency, control, and capital protection. And that comes from daily systems, not one-time insights. This is how elite traders behave, not by being perfect, but by being prepared. You now have the tools, you have the identity, you have the rituals. All that's left is one more shift. Let's finish this together. Closing identity lock-in. Most traders never make it. Not because they're weak, not because they're undisciplined, but because they never rewire who they are. They try to trade with the same identity they've always had, reactive, approval-seeking, emotionally fused with outcome. And the market, it punishes that identity. Because the market isn't random. It's ruthless. It doesn't care how much you want to win. It only responds to one thing, how consistently you behave under stress. That's why we built this video, not to hype you up, but to show you, step by step, how to become someone who wins by default. Let's review the shift. You began with a mirror, realizing your brain is not built for trading. You learned how dopamine, fear, and bias sabotage execution. You saw the shadow trader, the identity that most silently operate from. You met Trader 2.0, the structured, neutral, process-driven self. You borrowed from legends, seeing how professionals protect their edge with simplicity. You installed MMOS, the mental operating system that protects you from chaos. And you committed to daily ritual, the trader reset cycle, to make it real. That's not motivation, that's mental architecture. Now here's the final truth. There will be moments where you forget. You'll hesitate again, you'll chase again, you'll fight the plan again. And that's okay, because identity isn't built in a moment of clarity. It's forged in the moment after the mistake. When you decide to return to structure, when you open the journal anyway, when you take the loss with grace, when you reset instead of revenge. Those are the moments that matter, not the wins, the realignments. Because in the end, this game is not about predicting charts. It's about managing the only thing you can control, you. So write this down. I don't trade for excitement. I trade for execution. I don't rise to goals. I fall to my system. I trade who I am. The market reflects that. Let those lines become your internal script. Let them run in the background, like code. And over time, you'll notice less noise, fewer mistakes, more clarity, more peace. Because when identity, system, and behavior align, consistency is inevitable. And you'll stop trying to win trades. You'll start becoming the kind of person the market rewards. Over and over and over again. That's the path. That's the work. That's Mind Over Markets.